Hello everyone, it's Carl here at Stacey Guitar Tuition. Welcome back to a brand new video. I did a short on this recently and I always like to follow a short up with a long form content version of it. And that is talking about this album right here, right now in front of me. I'm going to put it here because it's a little bit easier to see than in front of my face. And this is Hawthorne Heights, If Only You Were Lonely. This record that I'm actually holding is the re-recorded, sort of re-released version they did a little while ago that I was lucky enough to get. That looks pretty beautiful, if I do remember correctly. It's got a cool finish on this vinyl actually. Here we go. Pretty beautiful stuff. I haven't bought vinyls in ages and it's something I definitely want to get back around to doing. Because, I mean, how beautiful can vinyls be, man? It's insane. But yeah. I want to talk a little bit about why I think and how I believe that this album changed emo forever. Did a little video series like this on how this song changed X genre forever, and I thought I'd bring that series back and talk about albums instead, because it's actually a little bit easier. It's a little bit more kind of targeted and specific that way. I have really fond memories of this album. I grew up with this album, I grew up with these songs, and I learned a lot from these songs about who I am, who I wanted to be, where I wanted to go as a musician and in life and things like that. Songs like This Is Who We Are So Last Year, Language Lessons, etc. They kind of gave me the flavor of what I now love to play, prefer to play, the songs that I write personally in my band Connection State. And that is that marriage of beautiful melody and just really peaceful moments, beautiful melody, calm aspects, the beautiful side of music, combined with just darker undertones, more aggressive parts, aggressive guitar parts, the little bits of screaming that they had back in the day and still do. And just that marriage of those things together really did something for me and still does something for me and really impacted me as a teenager growing up listening to this album, listening to these bands, okay? I wasn't a teenager when this album came out. I actually found them, I think I found Hawthorne Heights in like 2007, 2008, so a little bit after this album came out in 2006, which is now the 20th anniversary, by the way, and I'll be seeing this band for the third time at Slam Dunk Festival this year. But yeah, I kind of did this as a celebration of the 20 years of this album existing as well. Do you have any fond memories of this band, of this album? Did it impact you in the same way as that it impacted me? Let me know. Let's talk about it. Let's chat about it down below. I'd love to hear. I'd love to find these things out. But yeah, so I truly believe that this album changed emo forever because it's the beautiful simplicity of the band that is Hawthorne Heights, okay? There's a lot of bands that obviously have gimmicks that do really well and the marketing is really good for that. A lot of bands that have just like a lot more of a commercial sound or commercial style, or look a certain way, sound a certain way, have a certain thing in mind. Whereas with Hawthorne Heights, and they'll probably say themselves, they've always just been a group of normal dudes from the suburbs in Ohio where they came from. That part of that, like just working class, kind of working hard, suburban kids, teenagers growing up back then when this album was released, is what... That's like almost like a gimmick without being a gimmick. They were just being themselves. They were just doing their own thing. They were just writing songs, not focusing on a gimmick necessarily, not focusing on anything other than just being friends, putting some cool, fun, unique sounding songs together and releasing them into the world and just kind of putting everything on the table. And of course, that means to this day, they've never been the biggest band. They're never going to be the biggest band. They're not the most commercial band. They're much more of a cult following type band, like a lot of bands end up being, or a lot of bands are, versus a band like Blink-182, Sum 41, Good Charlotte, etc., which obviously had kind of stardom and MTV and TRL and all these kinds of appeals and all these kinds of things. And back in the day, Hawthorne Heights still definitely had those aspects and those things, a whole lot more than they do now, that's for sure. But they still were never a big band and they were still never in the limelight like all those other bands of that time, that era were. So I think that in and of itself just did something for emo, because you had My Chemical Romance in the commercial side of emo and in the forefront, and even the Used and bands like that, and even Jimmy Eat World and bands like that at the time, and all of that era, that kind of 2000s emo era, right? A lot of those bands actually were in the limelight, in the spotlight, in the commercial eye, that sort of thing, whereas Hawthorne Heights never were, like I just said. And I just think that that appealed to me more, because it made it feel more relatable, it made it feel more accessible, more doable for me, the average kid from the suburbs here in the UK. And I think that really kind of carved the way for me being in bands and being an independent musician in independent bands and creating the career and the path that I've sort of created and carved for myself now in 2026, a 10-year career that I'm really proud of and grateful for. So I think Hawthorne Heights taught me a lot about just being yourself, putting it all on the table, being normal, just going out there, having fun, putting songs together, being working class, working for yourself, being independent, and showing what can be doable, what can be achievable at the other side of that and at the end of that. Much more accessibility-wise than My Chemical Romance and etc. Of course, all those bands came from the same humble beginnings and the same kind of places and background and all of that. But it's just a different circumstance, different situation, and things like that as well. So that's the reason I think Hawthorne Heights changed emo forever, and this album changed emo forever, because it told you and it showed you that it was doable to be a normal group of dudes, put some songs out, combine these beautiful melodies with aggression. And to this day, I still think that the songs on this album hold their own and stand out and offer something a little bit different to a lot of the bands at the time and a lot of bands since as well. So what do you think? What do you feel? Do you have any fond memories of these songs, of this album, of Hawthorne Heights in general? Let me know down below. I'd love to reminisce and get nostalgic and all of that good stuff. Otherwise, thank you very much once again for listening, and I'll see you in the next video.